somewhere out there is my family. I can't find them on my own.
Hang on, Dory!
Hello and welcome to episode 119 of Popcorn and Prosecco, a show that's all about talking about movies. I am Perri Nemiroff, and here are my co-hosts, Kristy Puchko and Angie Han.
Hey, everybody.
Alrighty, so we have a hot topic and a big review for you this week. The hot topic is going to be talking about the state of sequels and how they've been doing this year and where that could leave us going forward. And then our big review is going to be for Finding Dory. So, hot topic. Who's introducing that one?
That's Angie.
Okay,
that would
go
be
for
me.
it, Angie.
So because Finding Dory is a sequel, we wanted to talk a little bit about like the more general state of sequels this summer. If you follow any of the trades at all, or you're even remotely interested in box office, you may have noticed they're like really not doing that well. So Finding Dory is actually projected to do really well. It's supposed to have like one of the biggest or the biggest animated opening weekend of all time or something like that. And then I think Conjuring 2 and Now You See Me 2 are doing okay. But like this year we've had like Huntsman 2 flopped, Zoolander 2 flopped, Divergent 3 flopped, like Alice Through the Looking Glass, like, and then even sequels that didn't do terribly, like Ride Along or Ninja Turtles or Neighbors, like, or X-Men Apocalypse. Like they haven't been like epic bombs or anything, but they haven't been doing as well as I think studios were hoping when they greenlit them. So
I
think
sequel money.
Yeah, so I think it's like, I think it's stupid to ask like, is this the end of sequels? Because they're always gonna make, like Captain America movies or whatever the fuck. But I do wonder if this is the end of them greenlighting every sequel for every even remotely moderately well performing movie.
It's hard, though, because it's so weird what's succeeding and what's not. Because it's not an issue of quality, really. Because, like, yeah, Zoolander 2 sucked. It deserved a tank. But, like, Neighbors 2 we all thought was great. And it's doing okay. It's not doing amazing, which is weird. And then, like, I don't know. It doesn't seem... I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a logic to it. But I do think studios are going to be a little more thoughtful and trying to look at, like, the fucking, what do you call it, tea leaves of this year to figure out what's working in sequels and what's not. And I'm actually surprised that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 didn't do better, because so many people went to see the first one, and then everything about the coverage of it, which Angie and I know intensely because we did a lot of coverage on this, was how, like, the producers watched what people said about the first one and were like, okay, we get what you didn't like and we're going to fix it. And I think they fixed a lot of that, and yet it doesn't seem to have made a big difference.
I mean, to me, it doesn't, like, like some of these are a little more surprising than others, and you're right, some of them are just really shitty quality, but it does kind of seem like the ones that do well are the ones that people actually walked out of the theater, the first one being like, wow, I really wish there was another one. Like Captain America, obviously that did well. Like, even like Finding Dory, like people love Finding Nemo. They want to like go back to like the underwater universe and all with all the little fish and stuff. Whereas like Neighbors, it's a movie I liked, but who walked out of Neighbors being like, I want a Neighbors cinematic universe?
Yeah, you could say that pretty much about every single thing almost that didn't do well. Like just looking at the list here. Yeah, well, Ride Along 2.
That. Well,
which one?
Well, Alice Through the Looking Glass, people
yeah,
love
but
the
nobody
world of
walked
Alice in
out.
Wonderland.
Nobody walked out of Alice in Wonderland thinking, "Oh my God, I need an Alice too." It just wasn't something that called for a sequel. Versus, Captain America: Civil War, where something like that is a guarantee. Even Batman v Superman, in a sense, it's something that had a lot of material preceding it that called for more movies.
But then conversely, Conjuring 2 is very self-contained, even though it is set up that they could tell more stories.
Well, Conjuring 2 was Conjuring in 2013 was almost like an anomaly where it just tested really well and there was so much great positive buzz and it killed it in July. I feel like that was still riding the wave of the success of the first, and the fact that it was also a really good movie helped also.
Yeah.
I mean, I also it's not that I think people necessarily want like a big, superhero shared universe thing situation with The Conjuring, although it is kind of getting one because it has it spun off Annabelle and now it's getting a spin-off of
Nun.
But I do feel like maybe one thing that set Conjuring apart from some of the other things that have failed is that it did so well the first time because it actually did like stand out in a really crowded marketplace. Like in this genre that's full of like really cheap, shitty horror movies, it felt like, it had a really clear artistic vision. It like felt like it was just a notch above them in terms of quality and class. So then I feel like, and we still don't have that many other horror movies like that. So I wonder if that's maybe why. I mean, it's easy for us to say in retrospect, like, oh, well, obviously this and that. Clearly, like, people whose jobs it is to know these things didn't really do a great job, so I'm not pretending like, oh, you know, but like just looking back, you can kind of start to see a pattern emerge, I think.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think you've definitely found more of a pattern, because like looking at this, I'm like, I don't know, some of the stuff that succeeded is not awesome. Like, Now You See Me Too is fine, but it's like doing pretty well, and I don't know, man. It's weird.
Well, we can see if we can see if the situation improves any, because guess what? We have like a dozen more sequels coming throughout the rest of the year. We have Independence Day Resurgence, we have The Purge Anarchy, with Star Trek Beyond, Another Ice Age, Jason Bourne, Jack Reacher 2,
Ouija 2, fuck me.
Ouija's not that bad.
Ouija is that bad.
Oh, please. I think a lot of this stuff is going to tank. I mean, looking at this little
I think so
blurb of sequels, I think the only things that I think have a chance of being really successful are probably Independence Day Resurgence, Purge, and somewhat Star Trek 3. And
I don't think Purge is going to do well now.
Purge is going to do well.
Because
really?
Purge is coming out in the wake of a mass shooting. People aren't. I don't think it's going to have the same kind of impact it would have had a few weeks ago.
Oh, I don't even think that's why. I just don't think that many people know there's a new Purge movie coming.
Well, they won't now.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not like they've been promoting it that well to begin with lately compared to the last two films, but I don't know. I feel like people are really into that franchise. I mean, the first two movies did pretty damn well, and
I had no idea there was a Da Vinci Code movie coming out.
Yep, I didn't even know there was a second one, but there's a third one coming out. We're also getting another Bad Santa, another Bridget Jones of all fucking things.
That's gonna be so bad.
I want to say, it's gonna do terribly, but then like My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 did pretty well apparently. So who the fuck knows?
It did?
Apparently. I mean, it's not like it like made $1 billion at the box office, but I think for the kind of movie that it was,
this is depressing.
It only made
Finding Dory.
It only made 88 million worldwide. That doesn't seem like a very big number to me.
But how much did it cost?
I don't know. But I'm looking at Box Office Mojo right now, and it doesn't know the.
I'm gonna guess at most $8 million.
Really? That little?
I mean, the first movie cost like nothing.
I didn't see it, so I can't judge that by the scale of the production. But I would imagine it would have cost more than that. I would have thought like 15.
Maybe 15. Then,
maybe 15.
Even if it's 15, 88 mil is still a huge number for them.
But like the original was like
I like how casually
huge.
we could talk about millions. It's because of our Marvel money, guys. We totes understand.
Yep. All right. But so I think to wrap up, this summer hasn't been great for sequels, and but maybe things will turn around with Finding Dory. That's
just for clarification, just so you know, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 1 cost only $5 million to make, and it earned $368.7 million worldwide. That's huge.
So you're saying that while 2 is doing well by like normal movie standards, it's a crashing failure compared to its original.
You're being a little dramatic, but yes. All right.
Finding Dory.
So do we want to move on? Do we want to make any more conclusions about the status of sequels?
Beautiful
Angie
segue,
had a really good
and
segue, and we
ruined
trounced it.
I blew it with My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Sorry, guys.
I thought you were going to say your big fat mouth.
Oh, God, no.
I thought so,
right.
too. All right. Get back on track, people.
Yeah, before we devolve into any more madness, how about Finding Dory? So here is the IMDb synopsis for Pixar's latest. The friendly but forgetful blue tangfish reunites with her loved ones, and everyone learns a few things about the real meaning of family along the way. I'm sorry, that's just the cheesiest summary.
It's not inaccurate.
Yeah, I guess it is accurate. So, yeah, Finding Dory, that's pretty much what it's about. Instead of Nemo and Marlin being the main characters, this one's all about Dory and her forgetful nature and her trying to find her parents. And it's adorable. And going into it, I was a little concerned based on the promotional campaign that it was going to be a complete rehash of the first movie. And while it does have a lot of the same themes and jokes, and it brings back a lot of lines, it doesn't feel like a copy-paste. There's enough things about it that are different, and it brings up enough. It really delves into the character of Dory a little more than I thought, like in terms of her accepting her disability. Can you call it a disability? Yeah, I guess
special need.
Her special need, is that the proper term? Mm-hmm. Her embracing her special need and, not looking at it as a completely negative thing and just embracing who she is and going on this adventure. And I found it fun enough. It's not on the same level as Finding Nemo, but I still think it's a worthy
That's so
sequel.
interesting. I like this way better than Finding Nemo.
No way, really?
I do.
Why?
I thought about this a lot. When Finding Nemo came out and everyone was going nuts about it, I was not into it and I couldn't figure out why I was so out of it. Watching Finding Dory, which I do think is pretty similar, because again, it's let's travel across the ocean and we'll go into a weird off-land situation and we will find family and it'll be a thing. I think it's because Albert Brooks doesn't do it for me. I think he makes me more anxious than amused. But with Dory and so much of this movie focusing on Dory, I like her and I'm like connected to her optimism and I like that like she tries really hard to be hopeful and optimistic and just keep swimming, but then she has these moments of panic and self-doubt, but then she overcomes, and I felt really connected to that story because I know a lot of people like that. It's not like I'm like that at all. But I really enjoyed the tone of this a lot more, I think, and also just because I like the message about how, what like you point out, that it's basically they use her short-term memory loss as an analogy for special needs, and not just from her, where like Dory is afraid that it's going to be something that keeps her from people because she can't remember people and it's isolating, and her parents, you find in flashbacks, worry that too, but then it's ultimately talks about how it's not something that inhibits her. It's part of who she is, and it's part of what makes her actually special, and not like in quotes special. And I really liked that message, even though some people have been criticizing because they're like, it's really heavy-handed with it. And it's like, yeah, it's a children's movie. It's a children's movie that's being like, hey, people might be different. That's not a bad thing. And so I'm fine with them laying it on thick if that's going to help kids understand it and not be bullying jerks to each other.
I liked that the way that she's different, it's not like they're like, oh, you know, it's not like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer situation where you're like, oh, you're like thing that makes you freakish. She's actually the thing that makes you better than everyone. Like, it's really not. It's just that, like, because she has this disability, she's kind of developed a specific way of looking at the world and with dealing with problems. And it's not necessarily that she is better at it than other people, but it's that she, you know, she's learned to cope, and other people really, throughout the movie, really come to appreciate you know, the way that she does things. I mean, I liked the first Finding Nemo fine. Like, I didn't love it. I thought it was cute. It was sweet. And then I forgot it pretty quickly. And this one, I kind of felt the same way. Like, as you know, I did like it. I think that Kristy, like, I feel like intellectually I understand what you mean and like how, you know, I'm like, yeah, I agree with all of that. But it just like emotionally didn't do it for me. I don't know. And one of the things that's maybe not fair to this specific movie is that I wonder if a part of it is that like Pixar has been going back to the sequel like a lot lately. And you know, like this was cute, but it does feel a little bit like, yeah, we've been there. We know these characters. We've done that. We've seen this world. That said, there are some great new parts of this world that I loved. Hank the Octopus.
Hank the Octopus. My only complaint about Hank is that I think Ed O'Neill sounds too much like Albert Brooks.
Oh, like that's funny.
I can see that.
For the first little bit
where
we see Hank, that was bothering me. But eventually you spend so much time with Hank, and they develop him so well as a character, and the animation of the octopus is so incredible.
Because he's like, also, which I feel like we should point out, Hank is one of those octopuses that can camouflage himself, and they kind of go, like, they go to, like, Monsters, Inc. Randall Boggs area, where, like, he can completely become invisible by the way he blends into things, and that makes for a lot of really fun visual jokes, but also just him being such a curmudgeon against Dory being so guileless. It's a really good comedy team.
Perri, were you saying something?
Oh, I was saying that. But then,
sorry.
It's okay. That was my comment, though, so if someone wants to pick up.
But yeah, and then there's also, like, Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia plays, like, a nearly blind whale shark, which is kind of cute. I gotta say, though, there's like the beluga played by Ty Burrell, and I'm kind of totally over Ty Burrell. I feel like he does the same voice in all of his children's movies, and I
wasn't over Ty Burrell as like an actor, but I just felt like I felt like neither of those characters add that much to the movie, but he adds even less. Like, yes. I felt like you need, without giving anything away, you need the character for certain plot reasons, but without that, like, in terms of just like, you know, whether you care about him or like what he adds in terms of emotion or like thematic value, like it was like, could take him or leave him. One minor, there were a couple of my other minor characters that I loved. There are a pair of seals played by Idris Elba and
Dominic West.
Yeah, Dominic West. It's a little like the Wire reunion buried inside the sweetest, most family friendly cartoon ever.
I had no idea who was doing those voices, which was I wish I had looked it up beforehand because it's really funny.
At this point, if it's a movie affiliated with Disney and there's a deep voice you don't recognize, it's
Idris
probably
Elba.
fucking Idris Elba. This is like the third Disney
Zootopia
animated
and
movie
Jungle
he's done
Book in
this
this,
year.
yeah. He's all over. When is he going to be in Star Wars? Let's make that happen.
This is some of the best voice work, though, for the most part. I mean, once I did get over the Ed O'Neill, Albert Brooks thing, I thought Ed O'Neill was fantastic. And also, Ellen deserves so much credit for what she does in this movie, because Ellen has such a distinct voice, and the fact that she can just, slip away into that character, and you just don't even think for a minute, like, oh, it's Ellen DeGeneres voicing a fish. Also, because Dory switches back and forth so much in this movie so quickly in terms of, her being happy and super optimistic, and then all of a sudden having a really touching moment where she's absolutely petrified because she can't remember anything. And I don't think very many voice actors out there could navigate that spectrum as well as Ellen does. And that's a big reason, part of the reason that this movie works so well.
I think she does a really expert job. And it's one of those things where I do think the voice work in this is very good, but it's also one of those things where it seems weird that they cast so many kind of names when, like, who the fuck cares if Ty Burrell is playing a beluga in this? Like, I feel
you're just letting your hatred of Ty Burrell seep through again.
I don't even hate him. It's just I don't understand why he is like voicing every children's movie. You have a sitcom, you have
it's
a thing.
Not his fault
but
that
like,
the characters.
No. But I'm saying like there are like professional voice actors that for some reason like don't seem to get into these mainstream movies anymore because like studios seem to think that like adults are gonna be like, well, did you hear Ty Burrell is in this movie?
I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's hardly a problem that's unique to Finding Dory or even Pixar in general. Like when we were kids
totally,
watching Disney movies, like the people that did the voices in like Beauty and the Beast are not people whose names I can rattle off for the most part.
But that's the point. That's what I'm saying. Like
but I'm agreeing. It's just been a larger trend that's been building for many years. I don't think
maybe that should have been our hot topic.
Because of the name thing, there are people in this who do fine. Like Caitlin Olsen does fine. I'm whatever with Ty Burrell. But then you have like Ellen, who is a name, but brings such depth and emotion to the voice work in this that it's like that's like she's why she should be cast in this, not because she's Ellen. You know what I mean? And it's really incredible, and it does make me angry that like the Oscars don't pay attention to voice acting at all. And it's like this happens every couple of years where someone has a voice performance, like happened with Scarlett Johansson a couple of years ago with her, where the voice performance is so good you feel like there should be, even if it's like no, actually fuck it, they have an animated film section, there should be a voice acting session. This is stupid. Like there should be an award where we recognize the incredible talents of someone who is doing something like this, because also then maybe motion capture could get attention in the same arena where if you're not going to pay attention to the person as an actor, at least pay attention to the voice work they're putting in.
It was like we snuck another hot topic in here.
Ha!
Yep.
Also, Idris Elba for Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well,
yes.
just to touch on so I loved the movie overall, and it made me really happy, made me feel really good. I just love the positive energy of it. So I definitely think this is fantastic, and we need more movies like this. My one big issue with Finding Dory is pretty much in the third act, where she is kind of like bopping from location to location. I feel like there was almost no motivation or rhyme or reason for her getting from one place to the next.
I know a lot of people complained about that scene. It's just going like it's like it's literally a bridge too far. Where they're like, that doesn't make sense, and I'm like, we're in a world of talking fish. I just don't care.
I don't even know if I'm just referring to the third act in that respect. Even in the middle of the movie, without spoiling anything, she like can remember certain things, and that's what guides her throughout this mission to find her parents. And they were just very thin connections. Like one of the things that stuck with me most is where what was it called? The world's best glasses or whatnot.
The world's
whatever it is, when you see that in the movie, that's supposed to be a pretty big deal that is a clue to where she needs to go, and I don't think things like that were landing as well as they intended them to.
I want to wrap up so we can also talk about the short before the film, but I say to that point, they do establish that she has short-term memory loss, so things that she's been exposed to a bunch of times, it would make sense that she remembers.
No, I get why she remembers those things, but I don't think those things were presented in a way that makes them clear enough for kids to even get it and connect the dots.
I don't think kids are going to care.
I know, it wasn't certain things were not strong enough motivating factors to me.
Sure.
That's probably my biggest complaint about the movie.
So overall,
let's sum up so we can talk Piper.
Overall, Finding Dory, I thought it's cute. If you like it, if you're excited about the idea of a Finding Dory movie, then you should see it. And if you're like, I could take it or leave it, then you could probably take or leave this movie. It's
I
more or less what you'd
absolutely
expect.
recommend it. I think, especially nowadays, we all need happy, cheerful movies with positive messages. So I recommend seeing this.
I also
more than
recommend it, but
once.
I'm going to caveat with bring tissues because there are some
Yeah.
moments that are... I think kids
It's
will
a
be fine,
Pixar
but I
movie.
think
Of
adults
course you
are going to
bring
tear
tissues.
up. Yeah, it's a Pixar movie. But I think kids will be fine. I don't think kids will be overly scared or anything. But I think adults, there's just some stuff here that, like, you know, you might want a Kleenex handy.
Yeah. All right.
So let's
before
talk
we
Piper.
before we have to wrap up, let's talk Piper. And I'll start. I actually didn't like it. I didn't really think it was. I'm just kidding.
Oh my god, Angie and I assumed you were freaking out about it. I don't know what to do with this information. Perri, we don't know who you are anymore in LA.
I thought Piper was the greatest thing ever, and I think I might have liked it more than Finding Dory.
I
Oh,
did too,
God.
but here's the thing, Perri. Kristy and I, like, we saw the same screening, and we literally walked out at the end. The first thing we said to each other is, "Oh my God, Perri's gonna fucking freak out when she sees Piper." And then when you said that just now, my heart broke into a million pieces.
I was literally like, we don't know who she is anymore, and I am broken
Oh
inside.
God, it was a terrible joke. I'm sorry. I
That is
am
weirdly,
absolutely
like,
in love with
I
Piper.
missed you.
I want to
Fine.
watch the short all the time. I watched the one little clip that they've released online.
me too.
I really must have watched that clip like 20 times at this point. I thought this was like one of the sweetest, warmest, nicest things ever, and it just makes me think back when one of the last shorts that came out that was attached to Inside Out was Lava, and while I liked Lava, watching Piper makes me realize what Lava was missing. It's even though, you know, it's a short film and it has to have a beginning, middle, and end, which means something sad and, you know, not positive has to happen at some point, but Piper does it in a way where it's not like, oh, there's this terrible scene where there's a volcano buried underneath and you think he's going to be there his entire life looking up at the thing that he wants. There was just so much positivity throughout all of Piper where there was, you know, Piper does get knocked down and have to build herself back up, but at the same time it maintained that positive vibe and energy all the way through.
To
that
give
it's
a basic description
really
of
the
people who
most
haven't seen Piper yet.
heartwarming thing I've ever seen.
I just want to point out to people who haven't seen Piper yet, Piper is literally about a baby sandpiper kind of getting its legs. And I feel like we can leave it at that as far as plot goes.
Sure. I mean, aside from like how, you know, yeah, it's really, really cute and it's a little sad and the story is told really well, but it's also just like, honestly, one of the most beautiful things Pixar has ever done. I'm not even kidding. Like, it looks like it's really photoreal. Like, the bird isn't photoreal, but like a lot of the scenery and stuff is, and it looks gorgeous. Like, I just want to look at that forever.
I would say the texture of the bird looks photoreal.
The texture does. The bird itself doesn't, like,
He's
you
a
wouldn't
little- yeah, the
mistake a
bird's
photo of
design
the
is a little
bird for like a
cartoony.
real bird. But like, yeah, the feathers and stuff, like those all look really
I
pretty
also
real.
really just loved this sense of, it has like a sense of whimsy, but also a sense of real jubilation in the end. And, you know, yeah, I needed that. Piper was a really wonderful way to lead into Finding Dory because it just made me really happy. I want to
And
watch
it's a
Piper a million more
wonderful-
times.
And it's a wonderful way to lead out of Finding Dory.
Da, 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 da.
Bop. All right, so I guess that's a wrap on episode 119 of Popcorn Prosecco. You guys know where to find us. We have our iTunes page where you can subscribe, rate, and comment. You can like us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Popcorn Prosecco. We have our website, popcornprosecco.com. And then all three of us are all over the internet as well. Kristy, do you want to take it first?
Yes, you can find me all over the internet, but I have my career highlights at decadentcriminals.com. And I'm on Twitter at Kristy Puchko. That's KristyPuchko.
Angie?
You can find me on Twitter at AJHAN, and I am at slashfilm.com.
And I am on Twitter at Nemiroff. You can find my writing on Collider.com and my face on Collider Videos YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
I remembered something important!
Something important? What?
Something about a clam or
No.
an oyster?
No.
Mollusk?
No.
Something?
No.
I don't know.
No claim.
No more sailing.